Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another pandemic broadcast from the TravelMole. And I'm delighted today to have one of my oldest friends in the industry, but he is the captain of an industry now. He's in a very prominent position with one of the leading exponents of deals. That's Travelzoo, and my friend is James Clarke. Good morning, James.
Good morning, Graham. Lovely to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
No problem at all. James, it's tough times, mate. The last 3 or 4 weeks since Christmas, or even just before Christmas, things seem to have taken a bit of a rise just before Christmas, and now we've come plummeting down with this new virus. I'm assuming business for you is limited.
It's been up and down. It's one of those ones where if we look back at, in particular, the last few weeks of 2020, we were running surveys, and in mid-December, when we had that news of the vaccine, we saw a huge swing in our members and the sentiments of our members looking to book travel, which was really exciting. But as we've learned through this whole period of time, all you need is an announcement, and that announcement suddenly changed the wind, and suddenly we're in another strong lockdown, and that's changed the sentiment. And what we do know from our most recent surveys are that June and September still seem really keen and exciting travel months for our members, but that ability and that probably desire to book has been dampened by the most recent news.
Have you found that during this, not so much at the beginning of the pandemic, but certainly in the last couple of months, that your suppliers, the people that give you the deals, that their demeanour has changed, that they're, for example, that they are very anxious to give you deals, or that they're thinking, no one's going to buy it, so we're not going to give you a deal? What's the mood of the market, so to speak, in terms of supply as opposed to purchase?
So I think similar. We've been in a full variety of circumstances. If we go back to the very start of the lockdown and the announcement really that COVID had hit our shores, the instant disruption that faced was we had pretty much all of our advertisers go on full shutdown. They had to focus on all their customers, and rightly so. They had to focus on all their business infrastructure. And really since then, we've seen different behaviors from different advertisers. Some advertisers have been quite proactive in advertising throughout the entire year. They've seen it as more of an opportunity to potentially capture members and their own customers, new customers during this time, especially knowing that they can buy advertising for a lot less than they would have maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. And other advertisers have gone into what you'd probably call like a hibernation mode, where they've really shut down their business to real minimum spend and processes to try to see this out.
And in terms of you saying that June, September, people are, they appear to be more confident about that they would be able to take up one of your offers. What sort of products are they taking up? Is it overseas? Is it domestic? Is it day trips? What is it that seems to be in demand?
So if we look at the data that we gathered in December, the key kind of standout piece of information that we gathered, which is when we survey all our members, where do you want to go? Generally, your top kind of 3 or 4 are always going to be your Italy, Greece, and Spain. They always resemble the top 3. This year, when we surveyed, or the most recent survey, the number 1 spot was the UK, which is a real telltale to say that our members are looking at the UK as their first destination that they're looking to book. Making up the top 5 still was Greece, Spain, and Italy, so that's exciting for our advertisers. And what we have seen in the other makeup of the 10 is that the US is still up in the top 10, which is very positive. It's always been a destination that's resonated well with our members. So predominantly, it's going to be UK as probably their first purchase for travel, being then followed by a European break. And if it was long haul, USA is up there, the Caribbean and the Indian Ocean are up there, and Canada is up there as well. But what you are seeing is the demise of a lot of Asia, which has always been popular with our market. So that that has reduced in its popularity, and some of the smaller, maybe more offbeat destinations, which they had become accustomed to seeing in the top 20, which got them kind of really inspired to maybe try somewhere new.
It's very interesting. I don't know how far you can dig into your data as to, who's booking what. The people that are most likely to get the vaccine early and get both doses of the vaccine early would be sort of baby boom generation and upwards. And you would think that they would potentially be looking at overseas. Perhaps if you're a younger domestic family, is that the sort of correlation you find from your data, or are you not able to do that?
So what we can tell from our data, and it's no lie that Travelzoo members are predominantly of the 45 plus demographic. That's the large majority of that audience. So what we do know from what they're looking at is, on that international break, really it's a longer duration, which is important. It's those destinations that I've listed. There's more money to be spent, and that's all due to this pent-up demand that we very much know is in the industry at the moment. And then probably more, if you look at the other people who are answering the question, those people who have got families, you're right, UK is looking as a very popular destination for those people with families, but so is Europe. Spain has always been that kind of friendly foe for our members, and in particular the UK consumer. The question probably on all of our tongues, which is, will people want to travel to a destination that potentially is not as well vaccinated or is handling the virus as well as potentially we are at that time when they're willing to book?
Yeah, it is. It's a very interesting thing, really, because you're saying that the Far East is gone down in terms of popularity, and if you look at it as we are looking at it today, even though in theory the virus originated from China and the Far East, they're the countries that have probably handled the virus better than anybody, and there are probably lower outbreaks in places like Thailand and China and Vietnam and so on than there is in Europe and UK and Italy and Spain and everywhere else. So it's probably a subconscious feeling that you want to be close to home. I don't know what it is, and I'm sure your research doesn't go as far and psychoanalyze as deep as that, but it is an interesting thing, and it'd be interesting to see how it all pans out. But I think, how much is price driven, do you think? I mean, if someone suddenly came up with, right, we can get you to Phuket for 2 weeks for 500 quid, do you think that's going to be popular, or do you think people are still going to think, I'm not sure about
that? I think money will play a part in the decision, but when we surveyed the members and that question did come up, it's lower down on the pecking order now than it had been in the past. Everyone is always keen to get a deal, and I believe there's going to be a huge amount of deals in the market for the foreseeable future. It's going to be a deal-laden market. But what we're looking at is, when you survey those members, very high up on their agenda are around testing. So will testing be needed on arrival and on return? Is the destination handling the COVID situation well? So are they, you could say, overridden with a virus at the moment and they're not handling it, or are they a destination that has good hospitals, good healthcare? So that was definitely in there. And then also we asked the question about, obviously, if you had the injection, would you travel? And we've had this conversation ourselves privately, which is, the moment you've had that injection, most people feel quite confident that they want to travel the world and take advantage.
Absolutely. As far as Travelzoo is concerned, has this sort of fallow time enabled you as a company, and obviously it's a very big company, enabled you to look at your own business model, look at your own practices, and perhaps think, well, maybe we could do this differently, and so on? First of all, obviously, you're known for your email database and for putting out predominantly, I think, offers through that. Have you looked at switching, adding, amplifying? If not, why not?
So I'll answer the latter question first, which is, ironically, really, we entered this period of time thinking and planning about a bigger move into social in particular. And whilst that remains definitely a key area of growth for the business, emails actually remained a very key method of communicating via lockdown. And actually, engagement increased in certain weeks previous to 2 or 3 years when you look back year over year. So it clearly shows that emails remain valuable and priceless communication methods during this time. More people had a lot more time on their hands, and when they were at home, it's amazing what you start doing. You start reading your emails, you start engaging more. So we actually had an ability to use that period of time to engage with our members. But saying that, we are always looking at new ways of speaking with our members, and the original plans that we had before COVID still exist, and we are working on a few methods actually, which are going to be exciting to come. But at the moment, as a business, we're still very fortunate to have a highly engaged email audience, which we will continue to serve. And then I was just going to say, really, to answer your first question, which was really about how COVID in particular probably altered Travelzoo, I would say that if we look back, and I would probably wear my heart on my sleeve a little bit here, but you know me well enough, I can do this with you, Graham. But looking back at that period of time where we entered lockdown, no one was prepared for this. No business, no government, no one was. And in all my time, and I've known you a long time working in this industry, we've seen and experienced some incredible turns of fortune. We've seen where the market is absolutely flying and something happens, and we've always been able to dust ourselves off. We've seen terrorist attacks, we've seen volcanic ash clouds, we've seen Zika viruses, we've seen things like this, but we've always been able to kind of just navigate our way through. But this time it's just absolutely taken everybody completely kind of by shock. And I'm incredibly proud of my team and the way they've conducted themselves through this whole period. They've contributed an immeasurable amount of blood, sweat and tears to get through this. But I know, and I feel very, very passionately about our travel industry, that this was something that's happened globally that has affected our industry in a way like pretty much not like many other industries. Probably only food and leisure, the retail side and travel, they've been the most affected by and impacted by this virus.
When we talk about coming back from COVID, which undoubtedly we will, when we will is a moot point, I would say, but when we do, many of the destinations in particular that I speak to want to emphasize all of their sustainability and responsible travel credentials, i.e. that they're going to come back, but they're going to come back slightly differently. They're going to come back with a view to sustainability. They're going to come back with a view to avoiding over-tourism. They're going to come back with stronger and more rigid rules and regulations about what people can and cannot do with regard to sustainability, and also emphasizing how safe, and healthy they are. Does Travelzoo have any aspirations to act, if you like, as a filter for that? In other words, that you might only look in the future at deals that offer that type of, not just open spaces, but offer a certain level of assurance on sustainability in terms of climate change, in terms of pollution, in terms of sustaining culture, all of those things, which a company of yours size and influence would probably be very important to suppliers, I would think.
So the simple answer is yes, 100%. Actually, at ITB, not last year, but the previous year, we
didn't happen last year.
No, the previous year, we actually had a centre stage panel which we presented data around conscious travel and responsible travel, and how as a business we are very much an advocate for this. We want to see the world continue to be democratized, to become smaller, to become able for more people to travel, but travel sensibly is the key. We were at a turning point before COVID. I think we were all becoming a lot more conscious of our own behaviors, as well as being educated through programs like David Attenborough on TV, where he was really explaining the effect of both global tourism and also our own kind of habits in our domestic lives. And that was at a turning point before COVID. And I think the travel industry will certainly carry on from where it was left off. The big changes will happen at hotel level, will also happen at airline level. I think that's the start of it. And then from there, it will be partners like, for instance, Travelzoo, who will be able to work with both of these parties in ensuring that the messaging is explained. One thing I think as a business, what we have to be careful of is that we want people to travel the world. We want people to explore and get off the couch. We've always wanted that. And it's just important that when we push that message and promote that message, that we do it with the ability to also educate and advise our members in the right way about what impact that has and how that can potentially even be offset, which is also where the travel industry is moving into, which is around offsetting a level of your travels or your pollution, so to speak.
Excellent. Well, James, I wish you the very, very best of luck. One big change of COVID is it normally takes you and I to have 5 glasses of a local ale to have this in-depth type of conversation. But I think at 11 o'clock in the morning, the most I've had is a strong cup of black coffee. So best of luck in the future. I hope that we can have another chat maybe in 6 months' time and see how Travelzoo are getting on with all of those things. And hopefully by then, from a UK perspective, we'll be travelling again, and hopefully from a global perspective, everybody will be travelling, perhaps not in as great a volume as we were a couple of years ago, but maybe in a more responsible manner.
Fingers crossed. Thank you very much, Graham.
Cheers.